Welcome back to another Turnbuckle Trash Talk special interview Wednesday. My guest is one of my AquaBruhs, the AquaBruh Cyrus Satin. Sir, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course, Kent.
So I want to talk about you and your career. Just this long journey. We got onto the Florida scene about the same time because I remember you coming down here, and one of my first interactions with you was at DWI.
Okay.
And I remember leaving that show, everyone calling you the Little Mermaid, which I just found absolutely hysterical.
Yeah.
But more than that, you bought into it. You were just like, I'm going to come out with a towel that has the Little Mermaid on it. Like, you were all in on that. Let's go back to before that, because you didn't start in Florida. You started up north, being a fellow Michigander as myself, in Detroit. Talk about what got you into wrestling even before deciding to train.
Originally, what got me into wrestling, actually, I always tell people, like, I feel like I have a very unique story. My favorite wrestler is Shane McMahon. I always felt like, as the boss's son, the last thing he ever had to do was wrestle. You know what I'm saying? I come from a place where you had to work very hard to get money. And no offense to him, but, like, he had money, like, available to him, and he still chose to go out there and work hard to create himself as a, you know what I'm saying, not just a character, but like an entity in wrestling. And he worked hard like the old school way. Like, you can literally watch early WWF stuff where he's you know what I'm saying, doing ring announcing and security, and then all of a sudden he's working into a character. All of a sudden he's a champion, then he's the man. Like, he went the whole route. And so he's somebody that always inspired me, and I wanted to emulate. So,
well, it's funny with Shane McMahon too, because for a while he was the only guy really allowed to do the crazy, insane spots. But I also think it's a testament to him that he wanted to do the crazy, insane spots. He's not going to put people in a situation that he himself is not willing to be in.
No,
he's not going to make his wrestlers or the wrestlers on the show do something that he himself wouldn't do. And he's not training. Like, he's not doing this 5 days a week, every week. So he's not. But he's still willing to put himself in the line of danger like that, which I think is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the guy literally survived a helicopter crash, you know what I'm saying, without like a scar on him. That's when I knew that, like, when it came to wrestling, there was nothing that this man, when he says he's the best in the world, stuff like that makes me wonder, like, he might be the best in the world, can't nothing really hurt him.
Or the craziest in the world, we're not exactly sure. So what was your first ever wrestling memory? If you go back to the very, very beginning, what was the first time you were exposed to it?
All right, so, like, I know that I watched the WCW before I watched the WWF, but I don't remember it. I just know that I watched that because of, like, the allotted time that I was allowed to stay up as a child. But, like, nothing actually stuck out to me there. The first real memory that I have was, like, I told my mom I was staying at a friend's house, which I did, but we were hanging out and playing video games. And my mom wasn't really cool with me watching the WWF because of the way it was portrayed, but it was the 1999 Royal Rumble. And so the way pay-per-view was, it would play and then play right back afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, I got to watch at the beginning of the Rumble, and then I had to watch the whole show over again, plus the Rumble again. And so for my first, like, WWF reaction, like, I didn't understand why this man was getting jumped in the bathroom, and then how he got carted out in an ambulance, but then he drove back in an ambulance. I was like, well, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen, you know what I'm saying? So, like, that's my first real memory. And then the next month was St. Valentine's Day Massacre. That's actually my favorite pay-per-view of all time.
So when did you decide, okay, this is what I want to do? Were you watching a particular show? Were you, like, was there a particular moment? When did you decide, okay, I'm doing this?
I really, like, the first time I thought about it and signed up, I didn't actually go through with it because I signed up as I also signed up for college, and I actually chose college over starting wrestling originally. But the first time that I really was like, all right, I might do this, my mom took me to, I actually told you about it when you asked the WrestleMania question. My mom took me to WrestleMania 23, and Jeff Hardy did the whole jumping off and sitting on edge spot, and watching her reaction to seeing that, like, my mom's always been somebody who has worked hard to provide for us and make us happy, and, like, seeing her become happy off of something like that, I was like, if I could ever make my mom happy by performing like this, or make anybody else happy by performing like this, then I feel like I can do that. Like, I don't like numbers, you know, I don't want to sit in front of a computer or be a factory rat, you know what I'm saying? I'd rather get punched in the face or try to punch somebody else in the face. I feel like I'm good at that. So
now, Cyrus Satin has been an evolution. It didn't start out as Cyrus. You actually had a couple of different personas back in Detroit. Take me through that process, like going through training. Who did you train with, to, you know, coming up with your first gimmick, so to speak? Talk about that.
My original trainer is Andrew Darcy, and that's in Port Huron, Michigan. That's Blue Water Championship Wrestling, and so the school is the Blue Water Championship Wrestling Academy. I trained with him for about 3.5 years, 4 years before I moved down here. And I started off as Keith Sweat. I was the savior of soul and the god of glow, the heir apparent to the Soul Glow empire. And that was a lot of fun. Got to talk a lot of trash and make a lot of people mad and whatnot. But then I went to XICW, and I did what was their proving ground. And that's a competition where they pair you with a vet. And on the very first episode, what had happened was there's 8 rookies, 8 vets, and the 8 vets are explaining to you why you should pick them. Johnny Devine was the last person to go, and up until this point, Johnny Devine was not my plan of pick. But he gave this speech that was very, very moving, and I won't repeat this speech because I'm not sure how you rate this television show or this podcast.
That's fine, whatever.
but he said a couple choice words, and I chose to challenge those words. And I ended up picking him as my vet, and through the evolution of that season, he actually dubbed me Cyrus Satin. He dropped the Keith Sweat name, and he gave me the name Cyrus Satin. And I was his apprentice in the dark side of wrestling. And it was a lot of fun. And then we ended up losing in the finals of season 3. Season 4, he chose not to come back. I ended up going into it again and getting picked by a guy named El Ridiculoso. And El Ridiculoso is the complete opposite of the Dark Lord of Wrestling. And he taught me how to have fun again, but he taught me how to have fun again in a way where I wasn't wasn't as arrogant about it. And I didn't have to be as prideful. I learned how to make mistakes and be okay with making that mistake, because now I know how not to do it. Whereas before, I was trying so hard to be perfect that I never made no mistake. And you couldn't tell me that I made no mistake. And you couldn't show me that I made no mistake. I'm not looking at it, you know what I mean? So then that's when I became more just Cyrus Satin and a fun-loving guy. And actually, the AquaBruh came around. I did a seminar for Evolve 105. And I've always been... I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not the strongest guy, you know what I'm saying? And I know that prior to any fight. So I always try to outthink everybody. And so in a seminar, the seminar is not, you know what I'm saying, war, but it's a fight. You're fighting for one spot. And so I was like, what can I do that's different than everybody else? And I watched a couple of the old Evolve shows, and then I remembered the last seminars that I went to, and I remembered everybody wore dark stuff. You know what I'm saying? What can I wear to stick out? So I made this gear thinking I would look more like a chameleon and be able to camouflage myself. But what ended up happening was I was sitting in the Evolve locker room. I got picked. I got to do the show. I was sitting in the locker room, and one of the guys was very upset by my gear. So he kept calling me a mermaid. He was very upset that there was a mermaid in the locker room. And one of the ring crew guys just looked at me, and Aquaman's coming out 2 months later. So he just makes the joke, but he's like, well, you could be the AquaBruh. And I was like, I'd rather be called the AquaBruh right now than what he was calling me mermaid. And so I just ran with it. And I originally adapted AquaBruh to be like my Batman because I have a fear of swimming. But when I got down here, like you said, everybody just started calling me a mermaid. And I was like, well, I'm trying to be liked. You guys seem to like me. If you think that I'm a mermaid, I guess I'll run with it. And so the AquaBruh has become more of a mermaid than I wanted it to be. But
well, it's funny you talked about it being originally the idea of a chameleon. I find you to be a very chameleon-like performer that no matter what spot on the show, no matter heel, face, good guy, bad guy, wherever they want to put you, tag team, singles, multi-man, you're able to mold yourself to fit into whatever puzzle they're trying to create in any given match. And I think that's just such a rare quality because some people get so attached to their position or their character or their place. Like at that DWI show, you were a heel and you really played it up very, very well. Whereas, here at ACW, you are one of the penultimate faces, I think, on the roster. Like, you were a crowd favorite. Everyone loves you. We know you were off for injury for several, weeks, but when you came back, it was a huge ovation. So talk a little bit about that, being that chameleon, like finding your spot. What's your process in going into a show, being told, okay, this is where we want you? Do you have to go through a process figuring out how you're going to fit into that?
To an extent, I actually use a kind of a process that I learned from Michael Jordan. My dad had this video. It was called The Unstoppables. It was a video compilation of the 72 and 10 year. And so Jordan said in an interview that he always would walk into the building knowing that somebody in this building was going to see him for the first time, somebody was going to see him for the last time, and somebody was going to see him for the only time. And so I try to remember that, like, whatever I've done before, like, people might have loved that, but I've got to keep doing new stuff and being creative, because this might be this person's only time to ever see that. And, like, I've had people tell me, like you never know what people are going through, and I don't want to share people's story, but you never know what people are going through. And I've had people literally tell me that the only time they get off is Wednesday night proving grounds. And so to spend an hour and a half, you know what I'm saying, cheering for me, when all I'm doing is getting punched in my face, you know what I'm saying, the least I could do is give you 110% of that, you know what I'm saying?
So what is the long-term goal? Where do you want to end up? What's your vision? Some people say, of course, everybody wants to go to the Fed, but for other people, it's, I just want to be able to do this, or I just want to get as far as I go. What is your end up?
I do want to go to the Fed. I'm not going to say that I don't, and that that's not a goal. But as far as getting to the Fed, my goal of getting there is I want to get there with the opportunity of them saying, what can we do with you? I don't want to, it's not that I'm better than, or I wouldn't be appreciative of, but I don't want just the extra role, or, you know what I'm saying, an opportunity like that. I would like to literally come in and be like, you know what I'm saying, you're somebody we like, we feel like we could work with you. And even if that opportunity doesn't work out, I would like just that attempt, because I come from a place where, like, this isn't supposed to be a real job, and I was never supposed to get it this far, let alone be at the 10th anniversary last weekend, you know what I'm saying? Like, just to get that one opportunity to say I did it, I worked hard enough, like, that would feel good. Other than that, like, I just always want to, like I said, I always want to be able to entertain, and I always want to be able to give back, because I come from a history of being more selfish and not appreciative of things, where with wrestling this is very easy for me to give back. So, like, I kind of try to always focus on being that kind of a person now. It's sad, like, you can never really make not reparations, but reconciliation, you know what I'm saying, with, you know what I'm saying, by just doing good now, but I try to be a different person.
When you were saying you don't want to just fill a spot, you don't want to be another name on a roster, you want almost to be sought out for what you can bring to the table, or them to have a plan for you. And I think, I mean, honestly, anybody would appreciate that, but I totally get that that's your goal, not that if you're just told, hey, we want you in WWE, for no reason other than to not have you anywhere else.
I do understand, like, there's other people who they get to a certain point in their career and they bring them in, like, coaching roles. I would take something like that, you know what I'm saying? I'm not, like I said, it's that the ultimate goal when I go to sleep at night, close my eyes, that dream is, can I get a storyline? Working all day, like, I would take anything that they gave me, because right now, you know what I'm saying, I'm in a position to always, you know what I'm saying, get better and elevate.
So what was the decision to move from Detroit to Florida? What was that process? What was that transition?
I spent like a year driving everywhere that Evolve was, and at the end of those trips, I would have $0. And so I would have to go back to work and then try to stack up and pay all the bills and all that kind of, again, within the 6 weeks of another Evolve show. Because Evolve is something like, Evolve's a goal. Evolve, I know, is a doorway to the WWE. So that, too, is a goal. You know what I'm saying? And so I'll do whatever I have to do. I help them out in any way that I possibly can, because if I can get there, then it's a step. And that's always the progression, is always the point of life, is to keep stepping. So.
Well, and you've been working with WWN not just in front of the camera as a performer, but also behind the scenes, you know, working cameras, working stuff like that. What is that process like? Do you find it very difficult to be on a production side, or do you find that you're just going to do whatever keeps you involved, whatever keeps you in front of the right eyes?
A little bit of both, but the hardest part, in all honesty, of recording is I love to watch wrestling. So there's literally times where, like, I'm recording and I apologize to anybody who I've done it to. I lose a little bit of the shot because I'm watching what they're doing. I want to wrestle everybody, you know what I'm saying, and I want to get that opportunity. So when I'm not in the ring and I'm behind the camera, it's not that I'm jealous, but it's like I'm watching, because whatever you're doing right now, I would have loved to have done it too. And so, like, I'm judging you, but it's not that my judgment matters. I'm critiquing because I want to get that opportunity next time, type stuff. And so sometimes I lose the shot. But other than that, like, I don't mind it. Editing is fun because I get to watch it back. I can literally stop and record and stop and record, and I I've watched everything from, you know what I'm saying, the guys in our ring to Walter and, you know what I'm saying, Timothy Thatcher versus Sakamoto and Sawa, you know. Like, it's so much I get to study.
Well, and you see the people who did make it and are on the show, and I totally get, like, not necessarily critiquing, but also studying and learning and seeing, okay, if this is what they're doing and they get to be on this stage, how do I adapt what I'm doing to get onto that stage?
Yeah, well, I always try to, like, my thing is that, like, I always try to, like, look at other people and see what they're doing and then do what they're not doing.
Okay.
I've always been that kind of person, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, there can only be, like, Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior kind of looked alike, but they weren't anything alike, you know what I'm saying? And there couldn't be anybody that was like Macho Man. If anybody did that now, like Black Machismo was the closest we can get, and that was for a specific reason.
Yeah.
But if anybody did anything Macho Man like, you'd be like, man, come on, bro, because you can never really do anything like anybody else. And that's why I try to approach matches the way I do. My offense and my defense, I know what everybody else wants to do and how they're going to think, so I try to be different. I try to be very evasive, a lot of roll-ups.
Well, and I think that goes back to what we were talking about you being a chameleon. You find out, hey, what is any given show or any given match missing, and I'm going to alter what I'm doing to fit into that spot that's missing, and I think that's very, very cool. So talk to me about your work creating your own gear. I mean, you sew together your own gear, which is very rare, I think, on the independent circuit especially. I mean, I know some people do alterations, but like you actually start from the ground out. What was the inspiration for your current gear, and what was it like learning the skills to make it?
I was gonna buy some gear, and then my girlfriend's mom asked me how much it cost, and when I told her how much I was gonna pay for gear, she took me to a Joann's and just literally, it was like, pick out anything you want and I'll teach you how to make it for at least $200 less. So that's how that started, and it became an easy process to do, so I kept running with it.
Now let's talk about the golden opportunity, you and Jayson Falcone. That was kind of like an organic coming together of two individual talents who were kind of struggling to make their mark.
Yeah.
And then you come together as this tag team, and it kind of set ACW on fire. I mean, you guys became one of the top tag teams overnight, it seemed. Talk about that process.
It was the running joke for like a year before I knew Falcone. I met Alex and another cameraman named Brandon, and we were at a WrestleMania, and they told me that I looked like Falcone and that one day me and him were destined to be tag team partners. And so then a year later, we literally were becoming tag team partners. And it was funny, but Falcone is somebody I appreciate. He's somebody that I feel like wants to work as hard as I do, and understands that like opportunity being there is what he needs, and that it's not just given, he has to earn it. So I would definitely respect that.
When you talked about your desire to fight everybody, and when you came back from injury, you had this great promo at ACW where you kind of listed off a whole bunch of names of people that you want to fight. Do you have a specific list in mind, like a bucket list of I'm going to fight this person, I'm going to fight this person, I'm going to fight this person?
Yeah. No, there's definitely like I still got to get Hunter. I still got to get Hollywood. I would love to wrestle Bobby Flacco. That's just like the ACW guys, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, like, if you could wrestle anybody in the world, you would love to wrestle the Riddles and the Ospreys and the Ricochets and all that. You love all those kind of opportunities. I think there's one guy, I would love to wrestle Anthony Green, the guy that just signed with Evolve. I like his style. I like the classic style that he has, and I feel like me and him could be a really good match.
What was the inspiration behind the list? Why did you decide to do that? I mean, I totally get that everybody kind of has their dream opponents in mind, but you like specifically made a list.
ACW booked really well in May, where there was a lot of high class matchups and stuff like that. And I missed out on all of them, you know what I'm saying? And then with the WNC title matches and everything like that, the qualifier matches, all those spots, like I didn't get to be a part of any of them. And so I feel like everybody else got to get like these matchups that like might not come back around again. And so I was like, before we get me. Like Falcone, obviously, I haven't seen him. He hasn't been around. But before we get back to business, let me at least do this, because if I can prove, like, I've technically beat Romeo. I haven't been able to really win. But if I can prove that I can hang with these guys, then that's what matters. Like I said, it's making sure that I can hang with these guys and that I can go and that the fans are entertained. So
it sounds like your time off with injury also kind of motivated that, because in wrestling, I've found your next match could be your last match. It's always kind of at the back of your mind that, you know, one wrong move, one wrong thing could just end it all. And so it seems like you've taken a very like, I am going to get every opportunity. I am going to fight every opponent I possibly can, because who knows when I'll be on the shelf next time.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I'm 30 years old. Like, people always think I'm younger because I'm small and everything, but I'm not. I'm 30 years old. And that's why the shoulder injury happened. Like, it was just an elbow drop, but it was just that time. It was after 5.5 years of doing them. So, yeah, just in case it ever happens again, I'll have that one time that I wrestled Romeo. I'll have that one time that I wrestled Aaron Epic. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, I'm going to ask you the two questions I ask everybody in every interview, and I'm pretty sure I've asked you one of them before and kind of gotten an answer. Maybe we'll get the same answer. Maybe we'll get a different one. First one would be, if you had to give a piece of advice to anybody getting into wrestling, what would it be?
My answer last time was kind of deep.
It was very deep.
Yeah, this time I'll just say, understand that it's a business. Like, it's fun. It is a hobby for some, but it is a business. Like, you wouldn't walk into McDonald's and then just tell your boss how things are going to be. You have to understand how it is sometimes. And so with wrestling, you have to understand how it is sometimes. And it is frustrating. I get frustrated. I forget that all the time. But you have to remember that it is just a business. So,
if you could change one thing about wrestling, anything, backstage, in the ring, fan perception, booking, everything, what would it be?
Don't talk about it as much. Like, talk about it, but like, don't add the drama of your own. Don't add the gossip. Just enjoy what happens on the production. There's so many people who are like, the WWE aren't. There's grown 30 to 40-year-old men upset that the WWE aren't giving them what they wanted, but they were upset because they felt like the WWE was starting to give them what they wanted, and then they faded away again. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. It's like telling me that you were starting to believe in Santa Claus again, and then somebody proved to you that it wasn't. Just enjoy it. Just watch the shows and enjoy it. Like, that's the biggest thing.
Now I want to give you an opportunity to plug anything you want to plug, social media, anything like that. Maybe not specific shows, because it could be a couple weeks before this comes out, but what would you like to plug? It's
Cyrus Satin on everything. Cyrus Satin on Instagram, Cyrus Satin on Twitter, and then the AquaBruh Cyrus Satín on Facebook. I do have a Snapchat too. If you get bored, you can Snapchat me and my girlfriend. So Cyrus Satin on that as well. Tchips.com, Cyrus Satin. You can find all my merch. I've got my original AquaBruh logo and the AquaBruh Starbruh Go. So.
Well, you can see the AquaBruh every Wednesday night at ACW Proving Ground. You can also just see him popping up here and there, DWI, other places like that. So keep an eye on this guy. He's one of the most animated, talented, colorful personalities in the ring, but also your wrestling ability is just top notch. Like, you are always one of the matches of the night on whatever show you're on.
And I'm learning how to swim, so if you want to hang out, I'm usually at Clearwater Beach with my girlfriend and my roommate learning how to swim.
Well, Cyrus, thank you so much for joining me. Good luck tonight, and good luck in the future.
Thank you, brother.